I think one of the things we want to make sure that we addressed on our Facebook page, but we want to go a little bit further in, is we're not saying that, this is awful, right? But we are saying that it's the start of something that's sort of changing for the worse. I see a lot of sports trying to pull their athletes from other types of sports, where I think we can really work together in this battle. And if you are going to specialize, okay, maybe your kid does like only one, okay, so that's very possible. I think what we are saying is you got to take the next steps on trying to help combat these repetitive injuries or the lack of other motor patterns through training.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key word that we're trying to coin and get out there is athlete despecialization, which is really kind of not so much, if your kid wants to play one sport and everything like that, as a parent, you probably don't want to say, hey, you know what, you're not going to just only play that sport, you're going to do other things. But you want to take that exploratory period that the human body really needs during those development years and expand that out to different things that you wouldn't normally expect. If you're saying, okay, well, we're going to play basketball. All right, now we're going to change that up and play, a different sport, maybe soccer or football or anything like that. Sure. But maybe getting into some different things of yoga, dance, kind of some different realms of flexibility or motor pattern training, things that are really outside of the realm of those sports can be very integral to the development of that youth, especially if it's a heavy lower body scale activity like soccer, potentially putting them into something like lacrosse where they need to develop their hand-eye coordination in conjunction with their lower body movements. That can be really helpful in overall development. Why a lot of these studies are finding that 14, 15 is that great specialization window where that exploratory period needs to be extended through puberty, just because of the development and the growth spurts that they go through. As we all know, I'm sure everybody that has a growth spurt has gone through their quote unquote growing pains, but that's really just bone soreness from the expansion of the bones and everything like that as you're growing. And these people are saying, okay, now while you're having those growth pains, go participate in all these sports 12 months a year and have all these competitive things. No wonder these younger athletes are developing stress fractures or having their acute injuries, like ACL is one that was highlighted in the ESPN article, where there's young athletes developing ACL tears that really shouldn't. And a lot of it is because their growth period is being really tested by these competitive sports and the repetitive actions and things that are kind of breaking down more so than what they should be.
We've said the specialization can lead to all this breakdown. So as a parent, my next question is, yeah, that's nice, but what do I do? Right? Because, my daughter really wants to play lacrosse and she's 13 and, she's already dealing with this. Or my son, he's a baseball player, and thank God for the winter because they shut them down, but now they have these warehouses where they can go play all year. So what do I do?
I think we have to start looking at functional versus dysfunctional movement. I think a lot of that is what we do with our consultations when we do baseline assessments, is we got to strip it down to the basics and say, okay, where does the dysfunction exist right now? Because we could probably guarantee with most people there is some sort of dysfunction. And you kind of say, okay, how does this dysfunction exist? Where does the compensation occur? And how can we start to alter those mechanics, those biomechanics, to create functional movement versus kind of hidden dysfunction within the movement patterns that exist? Sure, they may be functional on the field. You say, oh, my kid, he scores 4 goals a game or anything like that. Well, think how more efficient he could be if his movement patterns weren't built on a bunch of layers of compensation to mask all the dysfunction within their body. I think that's one thing that we do through our baseline assessments, is we break down to their posture, down to their basic movement patterns, and kind of build up from there and how they progress to more functional movements and where that dysfunction progresses.
Right. I mean, I know, speaking from my experience in rehabilitation of ACL injuries and shoulder injuries, I can almost see the dysfunction prior to them even telling me what's going on with them. I know I have some friends that have kids, and I'll watch them move and I'll say, you might want to take a look at them because I can see that their knees are already rotating inward, getting that valgus form. And there's no strengthening behind it. Now, granted, the body has yet to mature and it's not getting to that point, but is it too late by that point is my question, because we haven't figured out a way to prevent these.